I was halfway through a lukewarm Shiner Bock when Rick clinked his damn glass. Everyone at the party turned, all smiles and barbecue-stained napkins, like this was some big, wholesome moment. I already knew it wasn't. It never was with him. My name's Rachel. I'm 34, divorced, living in the guest house on my parents' property outside Brenham, Texas. I work retail, nothing fancy, but I've got bills paid and food in the fridge. Apparently, though, that still doesn't earn me a seat at the adult table in this family. Rick stood tall, chest out, in his crisp polo like he'd just won a damn election. "Let's raise a glass," he said, loud and proud, "to Uncle Pete, 70 years young today and still the toughest old cowboy I know." Applause, laughter, the usual. Dana, his picture-perfect wife, beamed like a pageant queen. My Uncle Pete grinned under his straw hat, sunburnt but happy. And me? I sat next to the grill, trying not to roll my eyes while pretending my potato salad wasn't warm enough to kill someone. Quick note, before listening, share which city or country you're watching from. Rick kept going. Now, some of y'all know Dana and I have been looking at a new place. Well, I'm excited to announce we're under contract. Cheers broke out. It's a farmhouse just 15 minutes closer to town, a bit more land, and we're adding on a guest wing. I paused mid-bite. My stomach didn't like the way this was going. Rick smiled over at Pete and Sandra, my parents, like this was the big finale. "We want y'all to move in. No more mowing, no more maintenance. You'll have your own space and can finally relax." The crowd erupted. Someone yelled, "That's so generous." I smiled, tight and polite, but it felt like my ribs were cracking under the weight of it. I already knew what this meant. Rick wasn't the type to offer something unless he was taking something else. Dana chimed in, syrupy as ever. "We just want them to have peace of mind. It's time, right?" Pete nodded, stunned but flattered. Mom dabbed her eyes with a napkin like someone had just handed her a crown. Nobody looked at me. Not one person asked what would happen to the property they were about to free my parents from. You know, the one I actually lived in. I swallowed the last of my beer and stood up to grab another. My hands were shaking. I cracked open another beer just in time to hear Rick say it. "We'll be listing the old homestead next month," he announced, like it was nothing. "The market's strong, and that equity can help cover the new build." My gut dropped so fast it felt like someone had kicked me in the stomach. That homestead he was talking about? That's where I lived. The garage apartment out back had been mine since the divorce 3 years ago. I moved in to help Mom and Dad when Dad's knees started going. I paid what I could, bought groceries, kept the bills moving. That place was home. Laughter and chatter bubbled around me like static. People were already talking over each other. How smart Rick was, how great it'd be for Pete and Sandra to live closer to town, near real healthcare and civilization. Nobody looked at me. I stood frozen by the cooler, gripping the neck of the bottle like it might keep me from spinning. Pete scratched his head and frowned, finally saying what everyone else should have already asked. "But Rachel lives there." Rick didn't miss a beat. "She'll land on her feet. She's had enough of a free ride." Every molecule in my body went still. Dana leaned in from her seat like she was delivering a recipe tip. It's time she learned how to stand on her own 2 feet again. My jaw clenched so tight it made my ears ring. Pete looked uncomfortable, but he didn't say anything else. Mom just blinked, smiling faintly, like her brain hadn't caught up yet. Aunt Louise let out a breathy laugh. "Well, it's a bit odd for a grown woman to be living in her parents' backyard." Uncle Craig nodded. "Rick's right. That land's gotta be worth a fortune now. Might as well put it to good use." Good use. Right. I sat back down at the table, hard, like my knees gave out. Nobody even paused. They were too busy patting Rick on the back and toasting his big-hearted gift. Dana pulled out her phone and started showing someone pictures of the new property. "We'll finally have space for real entertaining," she said. "No more cramming everyone into that little living room with Rachel's stuff everywhere. My stuff." In the house, I vacuumed every Sunday. The house I stocked with meds and adult diapers when Dad couldn't drive. The house I kept running while the rest of them showed up twice a year with store-bought pies. I felt like I was underwater. Everything sounded muffled and slow, like the air got sucked out of the whole damn yard except for where Rick stood. "Timing's perfect," he went on. "We'll close in the fall, just before the holidays. Parents moved in, place sold. Clean slate." "Beautiful," someone said. "You've really thought of everything." Except me. I wanted to say something. I really did. But my voice just wouldn't come. I couldn't decide if I was going to cry or scream or throw my plate into the grass. Dana circled back to me with that same sweet-cheeked smile. We'll help you pack when the time comes. I've got extra tubs in the attic. I stared at her like she'd slapped me. She didn't blink. All I could think was, they've already decided. I don't even exist to them. Uncle Rob leaned in across the table. You'll figure something out, Rachel. Maybe get a roommate. Or hey, move into the city. Shake things up. Like I was a damn college kid looking for a summer sublet. Rick raised his bottle again. To new chapters. The crowd raised theirs too. To new chapters. I stood up, left my full plate on the table, and walked toward the edge of the yard, past the hay bales and the tractor Rick liked to show off, even though it probably hadn't touched dirt in a year. Nobody followed. I kept walking until the sound of clinking bottles and fake laughter faded behind me. I didn't stop until I hit the fence line at the back of the pasture, where the grass was dry and the oak trees blocked the sun. I pulled out my phone and called the only person who'd shoot me straight. Matt Weston picked up on the second ring. Rachel, everything okay? Not really, I said, keeping my voice low. I need you to look something up for me, fast. He heard it, that edge in my tone. What's going on? You remember my parents' place, off Highway 36? Yeah, the one you... Don't say it out loud, I snapped. Just pull the record. I need to know who legally owns the property, and if anyone's tried to file a listing or sale. All right, give me 2 minutes. I stayed on the line, staring out at the open field like it could somehow calm me down. My heart was pounding in my ears. Matt came back quicker than I expected. Okay, so, it's not in Pete or Sandra's name anymore. Who then? Some LLC, Pinebrook Assets. Sounds like a shell company, registered last year. I closed my eyes. Yeah, that's me. Silence. Then, wait, you are Pinebrook? I bought it when they were 2 months from losing it to a tax lien. They didn't know. I used the money from the divorce, set up the LLC so it wouldn't embarrass them. He let out a low whistle. Damn, Rachel. They were drowning, Matt. I didn't do it for credit. I just wanted them safe, but now Rick's parading around like he owns the place, planning to sell it out from under me. Do they even know you own it? Number nobody does. Not even mom and dad. He paused. All right, first thing. We lock it down. I can draft a legal notice today. Proof of ownership, a cease and desist for any attempted sale or transfer. You want that? Yeah, now. I'll email the docs in an hour. Rachel, are you ready to tell them? I don't have a choice anymore. You sure you want to start that fire? They already lit it, I said. I'm just walking into the smoke. He was quiet again. Then, you're tougher than people give you credit for. They never even bothered to find out. I'll get the papers together. You want me to send them straight to Rick? Number, send them to me first. I want to drop the bomb myself. You got it. We hung up. I stared down at my phone, hands still shaking, and took a breath so deep it hurt. Then I turned and started walking back toward the party, where everyone was already planning my eviction over a plate of ribs. By the time I got back to the yard, Matt had already emailed the docs. I sat on a folding chair near the fence and pulled them up on my phone. Title deed, LLC registration, date of transfer. Everything clean, everything legal. My name wasn't on anything, but Pinebrook Assets LLC was tied to my P.O. box and my signature. Clear as day. I started running through what I'd say, thought about softening it, explaining the whole thing gently. But every time I pictured Rick's smug face or Dana's syrupy voice, the words twisted in my throat. Number, screw that. They didn't ease into my eviction, did they? Inside the barn, the party had shifted. Someone turned up the country music, and the family had moved into full planning mode. I slipped in quietly, standing near the back while Rick held court from the food table. I'm thinking we open up the kitchen wall and put in a pass-through, he said. It'll make the space feel bigger for mom and dad. And no stairs, Dana added. We want everything on one level. They're not getting any younger. My mother laughed like that wasn't completely insulting. I can help you start packing, Dana said to Sandra. Honestly, it might feel good to declutter that old place. I bet half of it's just stuff Rachel never unpacked anyway. I stood there watching them plan the future like I'd already disappeared. Rick had a beer in one hand and his phone in the other, scrolling through floor plans. I've got the listing agent lined up already, he said. As soon as we close on the new place, we'll clean out the homestead and get it on the market. Quick turnaround. Someone'll snatch it up fast, Uncle Rob chimed in. That land's gold. Nobody asked where I'd go. Nobody even glanced in my direction. I cleared my throat loud enough to cut through the music. We need to talk. Rick barely looked up. Don't be difficult, Rachel. This is already decided. I took a step forward. It's not. His smile faded. You're being emotional. I held up my phone. You're making decisions about a property you don't own. He laughed, actually laughed. Come on. Dad's name is still on the tax bills. We've been paying them for years. No, you haven't. I looked at my parents. You haven't either. The taxes haven't come in your name since last spring. Sandra blinked. Pete frowned, confused. Dana tilted her head. Rachel, honey, this isn't the time. Then make time, I snapped. Because if you keep talking like this is your call, things are going to get ugly fast. The music kept playing, but the room went still. I met Rick's eyes and didn't flinch. He was about to find out just how wrong he was. Pete leaned forward in his chair. What are you talking about? Of course it's still ours. No, Dad, it's not. Rick scoffed. Jesus, Rachel. You Googled one real estate record and now you think you're some kind of expert? I didn't Google anything, I said, holding up my phone. I had Matt Weston pull the full title history this afternoon. Dana blinked. Your divorce lawyer? My friend, yeah. Sandra looked around like the room was tilting. Rachel, what's going on? The property was 2 months away from foreclosure, I said, loud enough for everyone to hear. 15 months ago, back taxes, liens. It was bad. You would have lost the house. Pete's face froze. That can't be right. You weren't, I cut in. You didn't know, because the county stopped sending notices when the lien transferred. The only reason nobody showed up with a final notice on the front door is because I stepped in before that happened. Rick let out a laugh. This is insane. You didn't buy anything. What? You think we're all just supposed to believe that? You don't have to believe anything, I said, scrolling and tapping. Here's the LLC registration. I turned the screen toward Pete. Here's the deed transfer. Pinebrook Assets, LLC. Signed and filed April 3rd of last year. He took the phone with both hands like it might shatter. Dana stepped forward, arms folded tight. You created a company just to sneak around and take the house from your parents? I created a company, I said slowly, to save their dignity, so they wouldn't have to know how bad it got. So nobody else would either. Pete's mouth opened, but nothing came out. They didn't ask for help, I said, but I saw the mail piling up. I saw Mom crying at the table when she thought nobody was looking. I saw you, Dad, limping around that yard trying to fix broken pipes with duct tape and prayer. So I used my divorce money and bought the damn thing outright. Rick shook his head. This is total bullshit. I didn't look at him. I looked straight at Pete. You and Mom are safe because I made sure of it. The taxes are paid. The liens are gone. I kept the address the same, kept the utilities in your name so nothing would feel different. I wasn't trying to take anything. I was trying to keep something. Sandra covered her mouth, eyes brimming. Rick stepped closer. So what? You're kicking them out now? No, I said. But I'm sure as hell not letting you sell something that doesn't belong to you? Silence dropped like a hammer. Even the music in the background seemed to fade. Pete looked down at the screen again, his thumb hovering over my name. All this time? I nodded. He blinked a few times, still holding my phone like it was covered in glass. You paid it off? Every penny. Dana's face twisted. You've been living rent-free in a house you bought with divorce money. Congratulations. You mean the house I bought to make sure your kids still had grandparents in their lives? Yeah, real selfish of me. Rick clenched his jaw. You could have said something. Like when? I snapped. During the toast about how I've had a free ride? Or after Dana offered me packing boxes like I'm some squatter? The cousins had gone quiet. Even Aunt Louise had nothing to say. Pete finally looked up from the phone. His voice cracked a little. You did all this for us? Yeah, Dad. I did. Aunt Louise stood up so fast her chair scraped across the floor. You mean to tell us you went behind everyone's back and secretly bought your parents' home like it was some kind of charity project? Uncle Craig raised an eyebrow. You mean saved it from being taken by the county? Sounds like she did the right thing. She lied, Louise snapped. She deceived everyone. I didn't lie, I said. I just didn't make a damn parade out of helping my parents. Rick was pacing now, fuming. You knew exactly what you were doing. You wanted to blindside us, embarrass us. No, I said loud and clear. I wanted to keep a roof over their heads. That's it. Sandra dropped into a chair and covered her face. I didn't know. I didn't know we were that far behind. You weren't supposed to know, I said gently. I handled it so you wouldn't have to. She started crying, full on shoulders shaking sobs. Dana moved toward her, but Pete waved her off and sat beside Mom himself. I thought we were holding on, Sandra whispered. I thought maybe things were tight, but we were okay. You weren't, I said. The lien was real. The county sent 2 final notices before they turned it over to collections. I opened them. You never even saw them because I made sure you didn't have to. Pete looked at me with a different expression now. Not shocked, not angry, just hollow. I should have seen it. I should have known something was wrong. You had enough on your plate, I said. Your knee, the meds, that busted pipe last year? That would have cost you $3,000 if I hadn't fixed it with Matt's contractor. Dana's arms were crossed. So you've just been sitting on this information, playing puppet master? Number? I've been paying the bills and keeping quiet while you all treated me like a burden. Rick slammed his bottle down on the table. You stole our legacy. That house has been in the family for 60 years. You had no right to just take it over. I didn't steal it, Rick. I saved it. None of you lifted a damn finger when it was falling apart. You think the legacy is in the deed? It's in what you do for the people who live there. Uncle Craig stepped in again. She's not wrong. Pete, you've been limping around like a ghost for months. Rachel's the only one who's been here helping you. We all saw it. Pete's shoulders dropped. His eyes were glassy now. Every time I needed something, he said quietly, you were there. Groceries, doctor runs. That morning, I couldn't get out of bed and you carried the meds in like it was no big deal. He stopped talking, his hands trembling. Sandra reached for him, but he looked at me. I'm sorry, Rachel. That hit harder than anything else. Rick looked stunned. You're siding with her? Pete stood up, not fast, but steady. I'm seeing things clearly for the first time in a long time. While I was feeling sorry for myself, my daughter was holding the damn place together. She tricked you, Dana snapped. She didn't even tell you she owned the house. She didn't have to, he said, because she didn't rub it in my face. She just did what needed doing. Louise still looked like she'd eaten a lemon. This whole thing is a mess. No, I said. What's messy is pretending everything's fine while the house was about to be taken by the county. What's messy is acting like you care about this family while letting it fall apart from a distance. Nobody had anything left to say. Pete sat back down beside Sandra and held her hand while she cried into her napkin. I stood there in the middle of the room, every vein in my body buzzing. They finally saw it. All of it. Rick's voice cut through the silence like a blade. If she stays, we go. Period. Everyone turned. The air shifted instantly. He stood with his arms folded tight, jaw locked, like he was laying down some righteous law. Dana stepped beside him, chin up, smug like they'd just won something. You can't have both, Rick said, pointing straight at Pete. You want a future? You come with us, nice new house, clean slate, or you stay here in this mess with her. Nobody moved. You really want to depend on that? He added, gesturing at me like I was garbage on the side of the road. You want to tie your life to someone who lies and hides things and has zero direction? Pete looked stunned. Sandra had stopped crying, just staring at the floor like she'd left her body. Rick stepped forward. You said yourself, Dad. Your knees are shot. You're tired. You don't need all this upkeep. Dana and I are offering a way out. And what, you think you're doing that out of the kindness of your heart? I shot back. You're doing it because you want control. You want them dependent on you. Rick ignored me and locked eyes with Pete. Choose. A beat passed, then another. Nobody breathed. I swear, even the ceiling fan seemed to stop spinning. I watched Dad's eyes move from Rick to me. His hands rested on the arms of his chair, knuckles white. I could feel it. He was weighing it all. Rick pushed again. We're offering a real solution here. You just gonna throw that away for the daughter who can't even hold down a decent job? That did it. Pete stood up. Not fast, not loud, just firm. He walked straight past Rick without saying a word. Came up to me, slow and steady. I picked the one who saved our home, he said. I couldn't breathe. Rick's mouth dropped open. Dana took a step back. Pete turned to look at Sandra. She rose from her chair, tears already falling again. You've done more for us than anyone, she said, voice cracking, and we treated you like a backup plan. You didn't know, I said, barely getting the words out. We should have, she whispered. Rick's face was red now, his voice shaking with rage. You're siding with her after everything I've done? Everything you've done, Pete said, came with strings. Dana grabbed Rick's arm. We're not staying for this. Don't bother, I muttered. Rick looked around the barn, eyes scanning for backup. Nobody stepped forward, not one cousin, not one aunt. They all just stood there, awkward, silent, suddenly real small in the glow of the overhead lights. He huffed, turned toward the exit. We're done here. Dana tossed her napkin on the table like she was dropping a mic and followed him out. No one said goodbye. The rest of the family started gathering their things, murmuring and clearing their plates. Uncle Rob patted me on the shoulder without saying a word. Aunt Louise didn't even look at me. They left like it was a funeral. Only this time, I wasn't the one buried. The house was dead quiet. No music, no cousins, no chairs scraping concrete. Just me, Pete, and Sandra sitting at the kitchen table like we didn't know what to say next. Sandra's eyes were swollen, napkin still clutched in her hand. Pete stared at the wood grain like it had answers. Do you want us to move out? He asked, voice hoarse. I looked at him, then at Mom. Number. That's not why I did any of this. Pete rubbed his jaw. I should have seen how bad it was getting. I was too damn proud to ask for help. You weren't supposed to, I said. You raised me. You gave me a place to land when my life fell apart. This was me returning the favor. Just quietly. Sandra reached across the table and took my hand. You didn't just help. You saved us. You kept us from losing everything. I nodded. My throat was tight. Pete leaned forward. We messed up, letting Rick control the conversation like that. Letting everyone else treat you like you didn't matter. You messed up, I said. But I did too. I should have told you sooner. I just didn't want it to feel like I was stepping in to take over. Sandra looked down. You weren't. You stepped in to protect us. We sat there a moment, letting the weight of everything settle. All right, I said, straightening up. Here's the deal going forward. They both looked up. No more treating me like I'm some lost teenager who needs direction. I pay bills. I keep this place running. I make real decisions. Pete nodded. You're right. I want respect, communication. If something's wrong, we talk about it. No more secrets. No more sugarcoating. Agreed, he said. Sandra let out a shaky breath. Absolutely. I don't need a thank you parade, but I'm not going to let anyone bulldoze me again. That includes family. You won't, Pete said. Not anymore. It wasn't a big emotional moment. No hugging, no dramatic music swelling in the background. But something shifted in that room. Sandra gave my hand a gentle squeeze. You're not alone here. We see it now. I believed her. Pete stood up, walked over to the sink, and filled a glass of water. Guess we've got a lot of cleaning up to do, huh? Yeah, I said, but we're doing it together this time. About a month later, my phone buzzed while I was trimming hedges in the backyard. Rick. I let it ring twice, then answered. Yeah? He paused. Hey, you got a minute? I wiped sweat off my face with my sleeve. You're calling me now? Yeah, he said. I've been thinking about everything. I was wrong, Rachel. I didn't say anything. Just let the silence sit there. I didn't know what you did. I didn't realize the situation. If I had, you didn't ask, I said. You assumed. You came in, made decisions, made announcements, and never once asked me what was going on. You're right, he said. I got caught up in the idea of fixing everything, thought I was helping. No, I said. You thought you were in charge. He was quiet again. We found a different place, he said finally. Smaller, still outside town. Enough room for the kids, but no guest wing. Dana and I are starting over. Good, I said. Sounds like you're actually thinking for yourself this time. I want to fix things between us. I let that hang in the air a moment. Then, you want a relationship with me, Rick? There are conditions. Okay, he said quickly. What are they? First, respect. You don't get to talk down to me, and you don't get to treat me like I'm some lost screw-up just because I don't live in a brand new house or drive a $50,000 truck. Fair. Second, full transparency. No more backdoor plans or surprise announcements in front of the family. You talk to me, not over me. Got it. And third, don't treat me like a fallback option. I'm not here to be judged or pitied or saved. You either treat me like an equal or you don't bother at all. He exhaled. That's more than fair. I deserve that. Yeah, you do. The kids miss mom and dad, he said. They've been asking when they can visit. They're always welcome, I said. You too, if you mean what you're saying. I do. I'm not going to pretend nothing happened. But if you're willing to do better, I'll meet you halfway. He sounded tired. Not beaten down, just real. I'll take that. I appreciate it. Keep it up, I said. We'll see where it goes. We hung up. I stared at the hedge trimmers in my hand, then looked back at the porch where Pete was waving at me through the screen door. Yeah, things were changing. Pete handed me a glass of iced tea and sat down with a groan. These knees'll never forgive me, but the tomatoes are finally coming in. I smiled and sank into the rocking chair next to his. The sun was dipping behind the trees, casting long shadows across the yard. You've been out there every morning, I said. I've seen the dirt under your nails. He chuckled. Yeah, well, feels good. Been sleeping better too. No more waking up thinking I forgot to pay something. Because you didn't, I said, sipping my tea. He nodded slowly. It's strange. I spent years thinking I had to do everything myself or I wasn't a real man. Turns out letting someone help doesn't make you weak. Nope, I said. Makes you smart. The porch creaked beneath us as we rocked. The air smelled like cut grass and honeysuckle. You know, Pete said, I used to think success meant having more. More money, more land, new things. But none of that meant a damn thing when the bills piled up and I couldn't walk without a cane. I looked over at him. He wasn't sad, just honest. Real success, he said, is showing up. Being there when it counts. And you were. That one hit a little deeper than I expected. I just gave him a quiet nod. Down the driveway, the spot where Rick's truck had parked during their last visit was empty now. He and Dana had stopped by for lunch the week before. Civil, polite, no power plays. Rick even offered to help fix a loose shutter. Different energy now. More cautious, but respectful. I could work with that. The screen door opened behind us. Sandra poked her head out. Dinner'll be ready in 10. Y'all want pork chops or meatloaf? Meatloaf, Pete called back. Same, I said. She smiled and went back inside. I looked out over the yard, the old oak tree, the clothesline, the garden Pete had dug back to life. This land could have been gone, the house sold, the porch empty, but it wasn't. This was what I saved. This was what I built back. This was what real success looked like.